Communication ethics: how to make good choices when your choices aren't clear. Every business communicator encounters situations that require ethical decision-making. How can you be sure that you're making the right choice whenever you face one of these challenges? By following this 4-step approach, you can be more confident that you're making the best possible choices, even in the most difficult circumstances. First, understand the kind of choice you're making. Not all ethical decisions are the same, as you'll see in a moment. Second, identify the information your audience needs. Third, craft a message that conveys this information clearly and respectfully. Fourth, after you send the message, evaluate the outcome and respond as needed. Let's take a closer look at each step. The first step is to recognize whether you are facing an ethical dilemma or a potential ethical lapse. An ethical lapse occurs when you make communication choices that deprive audience members of the information they need in order to make an informed decision or take an informed stance on an issue. For example, if you lie on your resume or tell a customer you can finish a project by a particular date when you know you can't, you are committing an ethical lapse. Whenever you communicate in business, you ask audiences to trust that you will provide information that is complete, true, and not deceptive in any way. If you intentionally violate that trust, you have committed an ethical lapse. The choice regarding ethical lapses is simple: don't do it. Unlike ethical lapses, ethical dilemmas are usually much more difficult to navigate because your choices are not so clear-cut. With an ethical dilemma, you might have 2 or more options that are ethically valid or equally unpleasant, or that pit the interests of one party against the interests of another. Let's say you're the CEO of a company that is in financial trouble. You are in secret merger talks with another company. If the merger is completed, it will save your employees' jobs. If it doesn't, you're almost certain your company will go under and everyone will lose their jobs. The talks will last another 2 months, and right now, there's no way to know if they will succeed. Should you explain the situation to your employees so they can start looking for other jobs during the talks, just in case? However, if too many employees leave within the 2-month period, the other company will pull out of the deal, and everyone who is still with your company will lose their jobs. You clearly have a dilemma. Should you explain the situation to your employees so they can start looking for other jobs during the talks, just in case? However, if too many employees leave, the other company will pull out of the deal, and everyone who is still with your company will lose their jobs. Dilemmas like this are among the toughest decisions that business people ever have to make, because there is no easy answer, and every option has a downside. To resolve dilemmas like these, go back to the definition of ethical communication, which is giving people the information they need to make an informed choice or develop an informed stance on an issue. In the case of the employees whose jobs are at risk, many are undoubtedly going about with their lives on the assumption that their jobs are secure, and they don't need to be looking for alternatives or preparing for change. However, their jobs are not secure, and they don't have the information they need to develop an informed stance on the matter. One possible solution to this dilemma is to share the information you have with your employees. Let them know that the company is in trouble and you're doing everything you can to save their jobs. But ask employees to help in this effort by staying with the company until the merger talks are concluded. They can prepare to leave by exploring job opportunities, updating their resumes, adjusting their finances, and so on. But ask them to consider staying for the good of the company and their colleagues. This way, if the merger talks fail and the company goes under, employees are ready to move and won't be blindsided by the company's collapse. Again, there are no easy ways out of dilemmas like this one. But if you have given people the information they need, you have made the most ethical choice possible. Once you have decided what to tell your audience, the next step is to decide how to express it. Recognize that your ethical work is not done yet. When you have bad news to share, it can be tempting to downplay it in order to minimize the emotional trauma for you and your audience. In the case of the company whose jobs are at risk, You might be tempted to soften the blow by avoiding difficult truths or by putting a false positive spin on negative news. Being sensitive to your audience's emotions is important, but don't go so far that you avoid telling the truth. And with persuasive messages, there is a risk of overselling your message and slipping into hype or puffery. If you're pitching your new invention to investors with the claim that it will change the world, chances are you're overselling it. Be sure you can support every claim you make. With all types of messages, don't resort to emotional manipulation. If you create advertising for children's products that suggests parents would be uncaring or irresponsible not to buy them, you may have slipped over the line into manipulation. The final step in this process is to evaluate the outcome of your messages and respond as needed. This won't be necessary or even possible in every situation. But for high-impact messages that affect people's lives, try to verify that your message got through. For example, if you sell a potentially dangerous product that must be used in a specific way in order to be safe, you can survey your customers to make sure they understand the directions you provided. You can also monitor social media and customer support exchanges if the communication is external, or check in with employees if the communication is internal, to see if your audiences could benefit from reminders or clarifications. By taking these 4 steps, whenever you're faced with a communication dilemma, you can be more confident that you have taken all facets of the situation into consideration and that you are communicating in a way that fulfills your ethical responsibilities as a communicator. Communication ethics feature prominently in the 3 titles in the Bovee Thill series. They help students understand the difference between ethical lapses and ethical dilemmas and provide guidance in specific areas, including negative messages, persuasive messages, visuals, and research. To order examination copies of these texts, visit Bovee and Thill's Business Communication blog. Click the button on the upper right-hand side of the homepage that's labeled Order Examination Copies. On the ordering page, you'll find a link to a helpful chart that compares Bovee and Thill's 3 texts, so you can choose the book that will best serve the needs of you and your students. You'll also find a link to Quick Switch, a brand new system that will enable you to switch from your current text to a Bovee and Thill text quickly and easily. The system provides transition guides, a syllabus assistant, and a lesson plan assistant. Please visit the ordering page now.